We have ignition.
I like taking like a few minutes to just transition into podcast mode, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like you go from work day, you're just working, thinking, and then you gotta snap out of it
Yeah.
and get back into out of the weeds of the work and into stuff that people actually want to talk about
Yeah.
and hear about. So
I think it's fun that we've talked enough about this. I'm sure listeners have understood, but it's like a lot of times what I'm doing, and Matt can explain his side, but I'll train in the morning. Like, okay, I guess just to start before I start working, like we get our kids ready in the morning, we take them to school, drop them off, get ourselves ready. Then I go to work a lot of times, train, and then basically shut the brain off on that end and say, okay, I want to go meet with Matt, right? That's kind of where we're at now is like, you know, I'm able to get here at a certain time, and I'm lucky that Matt's willing to do it with me because it's awesome. You know, it's like at nighttime, it's so hard for me because it's just like so many variables, you know, the kids, the this, the that, the soccer practice. So I was trying to kind of make that work. It's just really hard on my schedule. So, and you can do it, you know, it's just like, it's kind of a hassle for my family, I would say.
yeah,
So basically we switch our schedule. So Matt made this studio and I'm able to get here kind of during the day, but you know, it's technically a break time for me, right? So a lot of times I don't train at these times. And it's been really cool to turn the brain into like, hey, I'm training here. Then let's go focus on these other things. Let's have a podcast about the thing of the day. And then, you know, Matt and I kind of go through it and it's really enjoyable. And then I can go back and I'm training again, right? So it's kind of breaking up the day in different ways for me. So, but it's valuable. You know, it's like, it's important conversation. It's obviously stuff that, is adding value to my day too, you know, not only other people's day, but my day. So I appreciate that. But
yeah, it's like it's always hard to do side projects because you don't really like make conscientious time for them.
yeah,
But I feel like that's always like the big, if you want to actually like build momentum on something, you have to just literally put it in your calendar, especially like something that requires, consistent effort and actually like getting into that kind of brain space and that, just having it intentionally like set aside on our calendars helps me a lot.
yeah,
Because doing it at night, I mean, when we were doing the football stuff at night, it's always like, you don't even know, you're just stumbling into it at the end of your day. You're like, you're not always sharp. You're not always.
what time is it? Oh yeah. Okay. Let's pod.
Yeah. It works for some people, but like,
Yeah. Well, we tried it. I mean, that's the thing is we tried a lot of stuff, right? So I appreciate that because it's like we put effort forth. We show up, we do it, and then, okay, did that work? Did that not? And I know for you, I think it's better too, right? Because you're training for your Ironman stuff. So at night, you want to train, right? So it's a lot of focus on that and then being with Hannah. So that makes sense to me too, is like, I was trying to kind of fit it in, and then we tried to fit it in like when my kids went to bed, after they went to bed. And yeah, you're right. It's like you're kind of stumbling into it. I mean, you enjoy it, but I don't know, during the work day, it feels more like work, right? So for me personally, it's like I can take it more as a, hey, this is part of what I do. This is part of my work day. This is part of what I want to accomplish today. You know what I mean? And then it's not just a hobby. It's not just like, at 9:30 at night, we'll do something. You know, it's actually part of what I think about and put more effort into. And we were putting a lot of effort into this before, but and Matt's doing a lot of the back end, so he's doing more than I am. So yeah, it's really nice to be a part of that and just see the growth, and it's fun, man. I don't know.
it's getting easier too. Like the editing, I feel like I've gotten through a lot of the early kind of time wasters, and like now editing only takes me like an hour.
Okay.
And like when we have a fixed time, it's like you just sit down for an hour, you have it on your calendar, and then when time's up, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the only way to really make something consistent, is to just have it in the calendar and commit to it, and then just get it done. And whatever the quality is of it, it's like you kind of just accept it.
Yeah.
And then you release it, and some are better than others, but like it's how you just kind of keep keep momentum and keep it snowballing. So yeah, it's been fun. It's a good, for me too, it's also like a good break as well. Because with my work, it's like you can get so in the weeds and like low level on whatever you're working on with software. So it's nice sometimes to just step aside and like tune back into, you know, a real conversation.
Yeah.
Get out of the rabbit hole of whatever you're working on. And then when you get back to your work afterwards, like you kind of have a fresh
feel
eyes.
more like energized to go do it, right?
Yeah.
That makes
it's
a lot
like-
of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like how some people will make sure they get up and walk a lap every hour. It's kind of similar, just to kind of take a little mental break. But yeah, Kyle's back. He ran here.
Yeah.
Fresh off the
Yeah,
road.
you know, I feel good. Goggins is inspiring me. I got to go run more now, try to catch up to this guy. But
It is like that reverse osmosis. You
yeah.
spend the time talking about running.
it's awesome. No, it's partly no. I used to train around this area, so the bike trail's close to us in Cedarburg. And if anyone's in the local area, it's really nice. You can go on the bike path, run down. You can go all the way to Mequon if you want, but didn't have enough time to pull that off. But you just can go on this nice jog, feel good about it. Beautiful sun out. Yeah, it's like an endorphin kick. So before I got here, I wanted to do that, and then it almost makes you just like you're more energized. You have more. You feel like more inspired when you get off a nice easy run. Now a hard run's different, right? If we're like, holy cow, we just killed ourselves, that's different. But I just went for like a nice jog, easy pacing, and all that stuff. I feel so much better when I get done. It's like I'm almost like more ready to podcast kind of thing, clear-minded, all those things. So. It felt good for multiple reasons. So Goggins, thanks for pushing me and inspiring me. Okay.
What was on the mind when you were running today, when you were thinking about the podcast?
Actually, I listen to podcasts a lot of times. So I really like this guy, Joel Jameson. I've been listening to his stuff for years and years and years and years. But he was just talking about HRV stuff. And again, it's like in the weeds stuff for me. It's more, it's stuff that doesn't really apply to most people, but yeah, he was talking about some of his technology that he uses and how he trains some people. And if no one knows who that is, I mean, he's like the pioneer of conditioning in the world, right? So he doesn't, not specifically triathlons or marathons, but he's very, very good with like UFC fighters and maybe professional athletes, right? Taking them and making them better with conditioning. So yeah, a lot of times when I'm running or doing stuff like that, I'm taking 30 minutes to an hour to try to learn something, right? And that's why I asked you yesterday, like, okay, take our podcast that we made 2 days ago, run or whatever, do that for an hour. Is it enjoyable? And I think, Goggins, you said it was like fun to listen to and like, wow, it's pretty good. That's how we test this stuff, right? So anyone that's listening to us, we're kind of testing it on ourselves, right? Like I've done that too, where I've listened to a podcast while I'm running for an hour. And I've really enjoyed it myself, and I'm the one on it, right? Like I understand, like I'm the one talking a lot of times, but it's just like, wow, I can like see how this works, right? Like this really helps me get through an hour. And that's how I get through an hour of running. So I really like that, the podcast stuff. I listen to music sometimes, but I've shifted a lot more to podcasts. But yeah, so I've listened to our stuff. I've listened like Joe Jameson. I listened to a decent amount. Yeah, so I kind of mix it up in that way, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I like listening back to it. It's like watching tape from a game, or like I'm a big golfer. It's like your swing gets a lot better when you actually watch what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you gotta
kind of review it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time it's like, well, for me, for the longest time, it's like I didn't like seeing myself on camera. Like I remember years ago when I was a kid, I'd always be like, I didn't want my picture taken. I
You're
don't
kind
like
of,
being recorded.
no,
Yeah,
don't
you're
do
like-
it.
Yeah, but
Why is that kid hiding behind the tree?
not that bad. Not that bad. We had some moments, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's nice to, I don't know, just listen back and be like, oh, like what if I was doing that again? Like I could have talked about something else there, or like, oh man, I really should have shut up that episode, or I should have brought this other thing in. Yeah, it's cool. It's fun to review. Do you find like when you're going for runs, do you usually kind of get in the same headspace, or does it like change depending on the day or what you have going on?
In my earlier years of running, I'd say it was hard. Like, I come from a football background, so I was a sprinter. I didn't really run long distance. I never, like, why would I? No coach ever asked me to. I didn't really have a personal trainer, right? I had a strength coach in college, and we were really about sprinting, lifting, power, athleticism. So actually, like, when my wife kind of started introducing me to some of her, like, the stuff she was doing, I was like, wow, this is very different than what I have been used to, right? Like, it's just outside the realm of what I'm used to at all. So the first few times I, like, tried to run with her, I was miserable because I didn't really understand it. I didn't know the headspace. I didn't know pacing. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? So, and I was a good enough athlete where I could run with her for a little bit and keep up. And she's a really good runner, so it was hard, but I could pull it off, and then I'd be miserable. It was like, why? Yeah. I got to figure this out, right? I got to get a better understanding of running. And then, yeah, I think what I did was I listened to music for many years, and that helped me kind of choke out the mind a little bit. But also, like, I just learned that to just keep taking a step, one step at a time. Don't stop. Focus on that next step. But, honestly, when you get years and years and years and years into running decently long, it's just kind of like I don't even think about anything. it's just easy. Like, I'm not saying it's fun. Like, it's kind of like one of those things. It's just so natural. And it's unconscious now. I just can just go, right? It's not, at this point, it's not hard for me to do. So if I ask a client sometimes to run 4 miles, they look at me like I'm crazy, right?
What are you talking about?
Well, no, I mean, it's just so true. For me, it's not even that hard. Like, it's not hard to go run 4 miles. Now, if I said, hey, go run that in 6-minute miles, that's way different than saying, go a little bit slower, zone 2 focus, all those things, right? So I guess it depends on what the style of workout is for me personally. If I'm doing something that's like zone 2 based, for example, like you're doing, I really like listen to podcasts, or, it's like my headspace is, I'm pretty happy. I'm happy to be doing it. I'm happy I'm healthy. And I've done it so much that it's not really like, it's not a burden, right? It's just like I enjoy it, actually. So I know it's good for my health. I know it's there's a purpose. And I can kind of learn at the same time, like I'm sitting there listening to some stuff today with Joe Jameson, but I listen to a lot of different things. But it's like, how do you build your mind to be kind of in a place where it's adaptable and can get better over time? I mean, running long and zone 2 work helps, I think, actually. It helps with brain health, right? But yeah, then being open to listen to podcasts and kind of learning that way. I think that's pretty cool. For me, I don't sit at a desk, right? I don't have a desk job. So I can't sit at a desk and look on the computer all day. I can't really listen to podcasts during my workday. So that's the only way I can really pull that off. And for me, that's kind of freeing, right? It's kind of nice. So I don't listen to the news too much. I've actually done less and less and less watching TV. I watch very little TV at this point. And it's really like, it's so enlightening to not do those things and just kind of like, well, if I really want to go learn something, I don't really need to go to a TV, for example. I can either read a book or, study some stuff that I enjoy. So that's a long-winded answer, but my headspace, if I have a hard run, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm used to it enough where it's like, it's kind of enjoyable, but I know it's going to hurt. And I use, a lot of HRV, the Morpheus system is what I use, but
what is HRV? Can you explain?
Heart rate variability. So, I was just, Joel Jameson just was talking about this on his little thing, but basically what it is a measurement of, your heart rate variability of how different your heartbeats are. And they measure the R to R wave, right? So there's electrical signals in your heart. So there's actually systems now that actually measure that, right? And tell you kind of where you're at with the HRV stuff. And let's say, so a person like you, Goggins, who's training a lot, zone 2, all this stuff, your HRV is just getting better as you train, right? Your resting heart rate's already really low. We've talked about this. But HRV is kind of an interesting like measure of stress and recovery. So it's kind of a cool way to see like, okay, I guess am I seeing improvements on my overall stress system, right? If that makes sense. But your aerobic system very much influences that. So as you get in better shape, as you get your aerobic system stronger, as you adapt to things better, your HRV score goes up. So Morpheus is just one way you can measure this. It's a system that I've used for a bit, but Whoop systems they're another common one. I'm sure you've heard of that stuff. And yeah, they're very cool because they at least give you a view of what's going on. I'm not saying they're perfectly accurate all the time, but at least they give you a measurement. Yeah. Again, resting heart rate gives you something. How you feel gives you something, right? If you're like, I feel better every week and I'm improving, obviously that's a big deal too. So yeah, so when I used to run a little bit more, because I backed off volume a little bit, I'd use this HRV, kind of system. So like, let's say on a Tuesday, my HRV was, kind of low, which means basically, okay, I was in a system of my body's a little bit beat up. Maybe I shouldn't run as hard that day. And the Morpheus actually shifts your heart rate stuff. Like, if you're pretty beat up, it'll shift your heart rate down. You should run slower. So it's kind of cool. So it's adjusting based on what's happening within your system, actually. Because most people just use zone 2 as it's a this number. This system actually says, okay, if you're really beat up, it might adjust your heart rate down lower than you think, if that makes sense. So you might actually have to run slower than usual on that given day. Again, it's kind of hard because I don't think every system, triathlon, for example, the volume you're doing, Goggins, it's like the Morpheus might say you're getting your ass kicked, right? But you have to do this volume to get through to finish the Ironman. Yeah. So for people like me who are, I'd say we're doing more normal volume, right? It's probably better for me because I'm doing normal amounts of stuff, right? 2 to 5 hours of cardio per week is what most people should do. But if you're doing a triathlon, you can't get away with that, right? So we're talking kind of different things, I guess. But for me, it kind of helped me understand, like, okay, on this given day, I'm pretty beat up. My HRV says this. What should I do today? I guess that's the biggest point. It kind of gives me that understanding of, and I already kind of knew that, you know how you feel. You wake up, you're like, okay, where am I at? But it kind of gives you a view of like, maybe I should go a little bit slower on that run today. Or maybe I have it a lot in the gas tank today, so I can go as hard as I feel like going. And anyone that trains a lot knows, okay, if I have a rest day on Sunday, Monday I should feel pretty good, right? That's what Morpheus should show. Or RPE ratings, like if I feel pretty good on Monday, I'm probably recovering pretty well on Sunday, kind of stuff, right? Like you can also use your own judgment, but HRV is really good just to see a number, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of people, it's helpful just to have something outside of themselves, that kind of, and that they can trust, just kind of either validating what they're saying or like telling them they need to back off a little bit, or just like when you have that's what like devices, I can kind of get annoyed by them sometimes because I'm like, man, when I measure too much, you kind of lose like the actual experience. But at the same time, I think like there's definitely the right balance where it's like. Even just a heart rate monitor or something that says like, hey, you've been going really hard, and if you keep doing this, you're not actually going to grow sustainably. Yeah. I think that can be even just a good sanity check. So.
And I think it's really, so let me explain it further. I don't think it's great for triathlons. I'm serious because I don't think most people that are doing triathlons can use a measurement tool like Morpheus as well as someone that's training for, let's say they're training for football. Right. Someone that's training for football, I kind of want a view of like, okay, on Wednesday, how are they feeling? Right. And they're not doing long runs or zone 2. They're doing more like, okay, hardcore, like power work. Right. Or probably a little bit faster sprinting. Right. So they're kind of doing the opposite of what you're kind of doing. I kind of want to see, okay, where is their HRV? Because that helps me understand as a coach, what can I do today? Can I push them? Can I, but it doesn't mean you can't push. That's not what it means. It just means that person's, if basically on the Morpheus system, if the HRV number is, let's say 10 points below normal, it means your body is basically in a stressed position. Sympathetic nervous system is very active, if that makes sense. So if I push them harder on that given day, that's going to push them down farther, right? They're only going to be more stressed. So that's what it actually is measuring, kind of. It's allowing you to see how much is that sympathetic nervous system working. The other side of that is, okay, I'll use a number from 0 to 100. Morpheus has, this scale. If you're at about 80 HRV on like an average given week, right, which is 80 is pretty good on their scale. That means you're pretty fit. You're able to adapt to stress really well. Let's say that number goes to 100. That means you're in pure parasympathetic nervous system action. You're rest. Your body's trying to recover like crazy. A lot of people don't understand. That doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just your body's trying to recover. You're beating the crap out of your body. Your body has said within this HRV number, maybe you should take a day of like less intense things, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that it's a number. It's a system that's pretty easy to understand. And as for me, I use it as an athlete and a coach. I've used this with people that I train a little bit in the CrossFit world. Now, I think it makes a little bit more sense in CrossFit and just general power sports. And because Joel Jamieson, by the way, he trains a lot of UFC professionals. He trained the Seahawks. He did a lot of this kind of stuff when he was first starting off into the world of like training. And he's very, very famous for this stuff, but he's trained all kinds of people, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense for that kind of athlete. CrossFit actually as well, right? On top of football and wrestling and those kind of things, because it gives me a view of like, those people are pushing hard. Their heart rates are high a lot, if that makes sense, which is like the opposite of you, Goggins. So it's kind of interesting, right? They're doing opposite training of a triathlon, which I would contend they should do a little bit more of the aerobic stuff that Goggins is doing, right? I think it makes more sense, but a lot of them don't. They do high intensity. They're very, think they're wrestling at a wrestling practice, let's say 2 hours, their heart rates are pretty high. They're not low heart rate. They're not just like kind of hanging out, right?
Yeah, they're getting fired up.
They're getting fired up. So it's like, you got to know, and all these college programs and all these professional teams have this technology, by the way.
Yeah.
They're all looking at this. This is all stuff that they all know. They're tracking their mileage. They're tracking their heart rates, their HRVs, all this stuff. And a lot of them are basing a lot of their workouts or, they're given days of what they do based on some of this information. So it's kind of cool. And I've studied the people that talk about this a lot. Now, it's hard for me as like, I'm a coach, obviously, but I'm not a coach of a team. I have people coming into me in a private market. So I've got some people to kind of use it. Others like, I don't really care. Again, I don't need people to do it, but it's fun when someone wants to, because it's cool technology to me. It's not life shattering. You kind of know how you feel, right? Someone comes into me, I usually ask them enough questions to get to the same answer. I kind of know what they feel.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like,
Yeah.
how much do you adjust your plan, like session to session, based on kind of what the person shows up with?
There's been days 100% have changed. 100%. I've had people walk in that, it's like, and honest to God, it's like HRV would tell me, yes, it would. So if I had HRV numbers on that person, if it had them tanked out, so there's a system on this. So let's say, green is go. They actually use colors, which is, I love this. Green is go. And I've tested myself for years to know how this works, because I love this stuff. And then there's all the way down at the end, obviously red. Oh, why is it, green and red? It's pretty easy to understand. But there's a way to understand that person's about to get sick. That person should not train today. That person should do something different.
Yeah.
And obviously if they're so red, like if their average HRV is 80 and they come in and their HRV is 40 or below, they're in the red on Morpheus, but also like, is there something more going on? Like, is that person going to have a freaking heart attack? Is that person going to, like, there's something that could be caught there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had days people come in and I'm like, we can't do much today. Like, we just can't do much. It's like, that's just how it is. And it doesn't bother me, because I know how this works. I've felt it myself. Like, my back's sore today. Should I go do a deadlift heavy? Probably not. I mean, we can work through a little bit of stuff, right? But It's the same to me with the heart and the lungs and the stress systems and all that stuff. And that's why I ask a lot of questions to people when they come in, or we have dialogue kind of right out of the gates, like, where are you at today, right? Or, we say it a different way, but how are you doing? Some people actually have had the Morpheus system and they tell me their numbers. Pretty easy to understand that, right? But I don't need that, honestly. It's like, that helps, but I can kind of tell just through talking to people. My strength coach in college, he'd have 3 questions on our program, how'd you sleep? How's your nutrition? And, just generally, how do you feel? Those 3 questions answer kind of what HRV is probably, what is it doing, right? It's kind of tells, most people will understand what they feel like, right? So it's not like a secret, but sometimes HRV can catch when you're about to get sick though, and you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe some cool things that people might not know about. Like your HRV might be at 40 or below, totally tanked out, right? And you're like, I don't feel great, but I could kind of still do something. It might be actually a sign like you're about to catch a bad cold, a flu, or like those kind of things too, right? Because HRV and stress systems, like if you're purely just pushed into hardcore sympathetic nervous system action in your body, it's like, yeah, sometimes that's what's going on too. So it doesn't always mean that training caused that. It could be something else. There's other variables that go into HRV. So if you drank a lot the night before, HRV tanks out. If you eat like crap, don't sleep. Also, if you didn't even train, your HRV might still tank out. So I guess that's kind of an easy way to understand that. Yeah, HRV is generally just kind of helping me understand stress recovery positions for people, or really for myself. It's like selfishly, I do a lot for myself. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how do you even manage your own? Like, say you're having a really like a red day, and you gotta go, and you got 5 clients who are green and fired up and ready to go. Like,
I just do it. I just honestly, like, I just do whatever I see. I don't. It doesn't bother me. I don't. Again, I think most days I'm really good. The other thing to understand with HRV is if you're a well-trained person and you, let's say, have been working out for 20 years and your system is more used to everything.
No days off.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, so no, seriously. So your HRV is not as up and down as a lot of people's. So a newbie actually is going to struggle more with that than I would, right?
Yeah.
So if someone just comes in the gym and they're like, I haven't trained, and they're 22 years old, that doesn't matter, right? I've trained for 20 or more years consistently or whatever. And, I can actually, I don't go up and down as much. And part of that is obviously intelligence of training, but part of that is, my body can adapt quickly to things. Yeah. That's just, I'm trained, right? Like I've been training for a long time. Yeah. And many people say, oh yeah. Like, why aren't you sore more, Kyle? Or why? And again, I would be sore like crazy, like Goggins, if I was doing his plan, because it's not something that I've done, right? So I'd actually be in a similar position to you if I went into a triathlon plan, because I've never done it, right? So your body adapts to what you give it. But also, when you train your body hard for a long time, you can get away with more. But age does play into that. So as you get into the more 45, 50, 55, 60, and Joel Jamieson, this is what he was actually talking about today, was he used to train, like he'd lift 5 days a week. He'd do cardio in the morning sometimes, all these things, right? And he was tracking his HRV through all this, okay? So at this time, I don't know when this video was made, he said, he's 45 at the time in this video. He's like, things have changed so much. He's cut 40% of his volume from what he used to do because he can't recover. Yeah. He can't recover the same way he used to. So just to understand too, you change as you age. You can't recover the same way. You can't do the same volume. You can still be fast. You can still be strong. You can still do a lot of great things, right? But I've explained this to some people that have asked, I'm not doing the volume that a lot of people probably think I am, because, I just turned 40. Let's say I add 2 or 3 hours of cardio. I see that impact me more than it would have when I was 25. It just does. Yeah. And I have to be a little bit careful how I adjust the variables, because it hits me harder now, and I'm 40. I'm not that old, but I'm just saying it's like, it's enough to cause some things to go poorly for me, right? Yeah. So I have to be more careful. I don't want to get injured, right? So why mess around with it, right? So I kind of know the plan that works for me. I know how to kind of dial in and out of things. But again, it's so based on the years and years and years and years and years of working out and training others and all those things. So it's hard to write that down for someone else, because I just say this: they have to train for 10 years or longer to understand this.
Yeah, you gotta
It's
build
like
your intuition.
you have to, like, you can't show up one day and just get what I have. And Goggins has been training for a long time now too, actually. So he kind of understands it. It's like, it just takes a long time to feel this, to understand the volume that you can handle, to understand how hard can I push, right? And on Monday, if I do this, what does my Wednesday look like then because of that, right? So, at this point in my career and training, it's like I kind of just know that.
Yeah.
I care to sleep. I love sleep. I drink very little alcohol. I focus on the right things. It's like if I drank alcohol and push myself in those ways and the wrong ways, I'd feel like absolute dog shit all the time, because when you're 40, you don't get away with that stuff. And, people can laugh about it and not sleep, and they can drink and all. I'm like, that's fine. You're going to take years off your life. That's your choice. Again, it's your choice to do whatever you want. But the things show up in variables to me. Like my HRV is elite. When I tested on the Morpheus, my HRV numbers are very, very good. And part of that is my body can adjust to stress and recovery really, really quickly. And I love that. I can't go do an Ironman tomorrow. That's not what that means, right? So
I have what's the Morpheus? Is that just like the way you test it, or is it a device?
It's a system. So it's a device you can buy.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
So you can go online and buy a Morpheus, and they give you a chest strap. The one I bought had a watch system that you put on your forearm to test your HRV. Huge differences if we want to just spend a second on HRV testing. So Morpheus is a system. Joel Jamieson created it, okay? And it's really cool. But, that system specifically, it's a morning test. You're supposed to kind of wake up, go sit down, put this test on, do it for 2.5 minutes. It gives you a number. So he calls it an active HRV test, which is way different than the Whoop system, by the way. I've tried to explain this to some people. I think they half hear what I'm saying, half don't care, because it's like, it doesn't really matter to them. Probably not, but I'll tell you one clear, big difference. The Whoop system, it tests you overnight. So it's an active system. It's different, right? It's on all nights, it's on all day, whatever, right? So it actually averages out your HRV over a night when you're sleeping and gives you a score. Mm-hmm. So think about that for a second. It's like, okay, the Morpheus is kind of one test while you're awake. Okay, Whoop system is while you're sleeping, an average of the HRV over that sleep pattern. Mm-hmm. So which one do you think is more accurate? Because it's kind of interesting to me that someone wants to try to average out a sleep, pattern HRV versus I'm actively awake. Let's say I'm sitting like I'm kind of sitting right now, and I do a test when I wake up in the morning. I've actually listened to Joel Jamieson explain this very well. My opinion is they're very different tests, right? Because the Whoop system, while it can show you a trend over time, it's not getting a very accurate view of what you're actually feeling like in the morning. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a clear HRV test over your sleep pattern, which I don't really agree with, because you're sleeping, the numbers could swing up and down all over the place. It's an average. It's not one number, okay? And I don't like that, because it's not active. You're not awake. Multiple variables can influence it a lot. As we all know, when you sleep, some nights of sleep are great. Other nights, I don't feel great. It kind of goes up and down. Where when I'm awake and I'm active, my mind is going, my stress systems are, everything's ready to rear and go. I kind of like that test when I'm awake. I don't know. It's just me. I just like that one number. Joel Jamieson explains it like the Morpheus is kind of like weighing yourself in the morning consistently every week. It's the same test at the same time, consistently one number. Mm-hmm. Versus the Whoop system is kind of like averaging out eight weighings within the day after you eat, after you drink, at different times of the day. Mm-hmm. Which one do you think is more accurate? To me personally, I think the Morpheus is way more accurate, because you're not getting the up and down swings of the day. For him, it's asleep, right? Though during the Whoop test, it's all about the sleep. Let's say you slept for 6 hours and you had a terrible night of sleep. Well, of course your HRV score is going to look really bad. But does that mean when you wake up, it's terrible? We don't know. That's the hard part. Like for me, the Morpheus could show an 80 score that morning, right? After you slept 6 hours. But the Whoop system could say, man, you absolutely had a terrible sleep. Your HRV score is really low, because it's really all just based on the sleep averages. So it's really hard for me to even see the difference. I wish they would compare themselves more.
Well, hearts are so there's so many variables too. Like I feel like it does sound like they're kind of getting after different methods of measuring.
They are, yeah, it's different for sure.
Because you can do like the Whoop thing where you're sampling a bunch of data over a long period of time. But then even like I know Morpheus is one thing, but like then you get into like the whole like ECG and like different like measuring your blood flow and like all these like the electrical signaling in your heart. Like it's so complicated and it gets so complicated so quickly. But it's funny like how heart rate like is literally the best biometric available.
It is.
Like by far.
It is.
Yeah.
And actually that's part of Morpheus. So you get your resting heart rate in the morning on that test. You get your HRV score, and then it gives you a recovery score. So what he says, I mean, if people want to use Morpheus or Whoop systems, I think it's better than nothing. Also, you could use your resting heart rate. I think there's something there, right? Again, if your resting heart rate is jacked up to 60 and it's normally 50, you can, I mean, it's not hard to understand. Like, I probably need to take some time today or at least have some easier training today. Because they're very similar. HRV does play into resting heart rate a little bit. Like the correlation is pretty clear to me because I've seen this over time. When I'm in pretty hardcore like parasympathetic system recovery mood, right, my resting heart rate drops pretty low, if that makes sense.
What is your resting heart rate? Do you know?
Depends on the day. It's around 50. Because that's kind of my goal is around 50. Again, I think I never want it to be too low or too high. So I've never had it like above 60. When I've trained harder in running, I push it in the 40s. But I don't want to stop strength training. So that's kind of the hard part for me, which is very stressful, by the way. So it's hard on a Monday, for example, like when you do hardcore, like push the heart rate a little bit on strength training, a lot of times, and people don't realize this, but strength training, like intense strength training, can push up your resting heart rate by 2 to 3 beats per minute, right? And actually zone 2 training usually kind of recovers it back down. So it's like you're playing with it back and forth, the yo-yo a little bit. And, like Goggins' style of training, you're going to push your resting heart rate down a decent amount just with the volume of zone 2. But, it's like, the normal person should only probably try to aim for like 50 to 55, I would say, resting heart rate. You don't need to push it in the 40s. Like all the studies are clear. Like if you're in the low 50s, you're going to live longer. It's clear. Your aerobic system's strong. You don't, again, it's like some people have resting heart rate in the 30s. Some of that is genetic. And I know you said a little bit yours is genetic, but some people that have trained for a long time, and let's say it started at 55 and it drops all the way down to 39 or whatever it may be through training, that might be genetics and training, right? It's not like some people, it's just not happening. It doesn't go down quite as low. And that's not a bad thing. Again, don't be scared by this stuff because I talk to enough people in the world of training. It's like people get like, why isn't my heart rate down in the 40s or down in, doesn't matter. If you're at 50, you're doing really well. You're fine. You don't need to push past that. So, and I've tried to explain that to my older clients. So some of my older clients that are in their 60s or older, they come into me, let's say their resting heart rate 64. Not terrible. But again, I've tried to have them get their heart rate below 60. That's kind of my first goal for them is like, let's look at that heart rate. How do we push it down? Knowing your HRV does help, but I would just say this. If they can go walking more, if they can do general things that are zone 2-ish more often, they get their heart rates down below 60 pretty well, right? But it's like general health guidelines. If you can get your resting heart rate below 60, that's a big deal, especially if you're coming out of the higher 60s. If your resting heart rate's up at like 80, you're looking at like, you're affecting your lifespan, right? Like you're really going to start struggling with some stuff. But most people I deal with, I'd say their resting heart rate's below 60. Most people that I have as clients, but some are down in the 30s. I think you are. I have a few other people that have that as well. So it's like, it doesn't really matter as long as you're feeling good and you're feeling like, things are going well with your aerobic stuff, and you don't feel like any health issues with that. So
yeah. It's funny. Mine just always like gets low, and it's not because of training. It's
yeah,
just literally always been
but
low.
genetics are a real thing. Yeah.
Is there like, do women tend to have higher heart rates than men? Do you know? Because I feel like just anecdotally, like I feel like women that I've talked to usually have a higher.
Again, fitness certainly
Fitness is
influenced
bigger.
that a ton. So I train a few females that have some in the 30s.
All right.
So again, it's
Just depends.
that's a good question. I think females in the 1950s didn't train like they do now. If we went back,
I think no one was really training
well,
in the 50s.
but
yeah,
more
yeah.
men were training in general styles where, really, if you think about it, women weren't training. So this whole, like the revolution of women running, think about all the things that have changed in 50 years. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
My wife's mom actually ran the Chicago Marathon, I think in I'd have to ask her again. It was early on, and she's like a pioneer.
That's
like
awesome.
that level of like, it was early in these days
early
of
runner.
the marathon showing up and women doing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she ran fast. I mean, I'm talking, she was like in the 3:30s, I believe. So she wasn't just running it, she was really good at it.
Yeah.
So for example, she's 74 years old now. I believe her resting heart rate's in the low 40s. So to answer that question, females and males, I mean, depends on genetics, fitness levels, aerobic capacity, but I think females can have the same low heart rates as men, honestly. But again, I think it's huge factors what they did when they're younger, and also genetics. If you grew up and your heart rate was always low, you kind of that's an advantage. I'm sorry, like that's just kind of cool, right? Like you got the lucky pick in the lottery kind of thing, right? Like your heart didn't quite have to work as hard, and that's not a bad thing, right? But I've been around people like Katie's mom, for example, who they train at a young age, right? And now they're in their 70s and they're kind of showing those results. She looks like she's in her 50s. She looks great. Her heart's crazy strong, low resting heart rate, all those things. It doesn't mean your joints haven't changed. Doesn't mean your muscles haven't, those things do change, obviously. But if you can put your heart in a place of like, oh, it can work efficiently at a low resting heart rate and feel no issues, I think that's a huge advantage for people. And study after study, I mean, I could look an actual study up for our next session here, but the amount of studies showing that endurance training and HRV and resting heart rate does apply to longevity is clear. Anyone knows that, right? Like, so a football player that just cares about sprinting and, all the power work, it doesn't mean they're not going to be in shape or healthy. It's just like that person should probably at like 35 to 40 years old figure out, I gotta add a bunch of zone 2 to what I'm doing in my life, because the way I'm training, it's really good for the football NFL level. And you see a lot of this with football players, specifically pro level. They get unhealthy quickly, right? If they get out of the sport, because they can't train like that anymore, right? And if they don't figure out that let's flip it to low intensity, let's change the style, let's do all this stuff, you see a lot of them struggling with health, I think. The ones that figure it out, Joe Thomas, have you seen him?
Yeah, he lost a ton of weight.
He looks
right?
great, right? And he's doing aerobic work and low-level zone 2 stuff, steady state. He looks great. He looks amazing, and he saved years on his life, right? It's like, man, but figuring that out, you need a trainer, you need someone around you that knows this stuff, because obviously these guys, they when they're in the NFL, no coach is going to be like, hey, go run 10 miles. Yeah, go zone 2. It's just not part of who they are, right?
Well, and a lot of people I don't really think care or acknowledge it until they do, right? Either something happens or like something motivates them to, or like a coach or whatever gets them to kind of change their perspective, and they start actually changing their behavior and they just feel the difference. Like, because I was going to say, like, do you know if resting heart rate like affects mentally just how you feel day to day? Like if you're waking up every day with a heart rate of 75 versus 50, like does that translate into just how you're like mentally feeling?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I think, so the brain runs on carbs mainly. So it's very interesting. So resting heart rate, let's say it's high, right? Which could probably indicate that person's out of shape, right? I mean, it's pretty clear usually the correlation. The brain can actually become very insulin sensitive. So, let's call it diabetes for some, but if you don't have diabetes, your brain can actually start struggling because one, you're out of shape, which shows up in resting heart rate and overweight position, right? But yeah, I mean, if you can't use carbs efficiently, all those things, your brain is affected. Yes. I mean, and I just was listening, like I said, Joel Jameson had this nice podcast going, and he did start actually talking about the brain. So, most people's plan should be about 80% zone 2-ish. Does that make sense? So like most people that I talk to or train in my world should be around 80% zone 2 work, okay? And 20% should be a little bit higher volume, intensity stuff. Let's call it like 80 to 90%, okay? And a very, very small percentage of what you do in your everyday week should be like all out zone 5 redlining kind of stuff, right? And the brain actually appreciates that. So that's what I was getting around to, is the brain really appreciates that amount of load at low intensities, because it helps you with your aerobic system, which helps you with the metabolism, which helps your brain in general just be able to work through carbs and all the things you're taking in to train, right? Let's say you just do hardcore high intensity all the time. The problem is you're going to burn out your muscles, but your brain as well, because your brain doesn't like that, right? You're trying to take in carbs, you're trying to take in all these beautiful things, and when you're all high intensity, your aerobic system's not going to grow to what it should be. Your mitochondria is affected in a negative way. And really what you're doing, Goggins, let's explain it this way. You're doing a lot of zone 2 work, which is great for your metabolism, great for your mitochondria, which is the energy producer in your body, right? You're feeling that. I think you've been saying this. You feel like, one, you're getting leaner, which because of your metabolism improving and efficiency, that's part of it, right? But also burning a bunch of energy. I bet your carb or insulin sensitivity has gotten better, right? So you're using those things more efficiently. Now, we don't have a study to go show it, but I'm just saying, like, it's pretty clear when Goggins decided, I'm going to do more of this zone 2 stuff. I just assume you feel better about a lot of the things we're talking about. And yeah, insulin sensitivity, I mean, in your body in general, if you have problems with insulin, you can lead to diabetes, but also your brain functioning, it goes down because you can't take in that hormone the way you're supposed to, right? Yeah. So your brain isn't functioning. Your memory loss is part of it. Dementia is part of the problem too, right? Your resting heart rate's too high. You're eating like crap. Your stress levels are high. All of these things actually lead into dementia, diabetes. Go into any of these chronic problems we have in our society. But I think Goggins and I are both trying to prevent those things. Now, I'm not saying I don't train in a way that I do just to prevent dementia, but the way you and I train is going to lead to the right thing, is maybe the bigger point. I'm not sitting here like, it's all about brain health. I mean, yes, it's cool, but I think enjoying the moment and understanding I just like what I'm doing, and I enjoy the process of, like I said, for me personally, getting around 80% of my training at like a zone 2-ish intensity is good. I call it 10 to 15% in that kind of that middle ground. A lot of people just call it conditioning, but it's more on that like 80 to 90% range. Something you can sustain, but it's harder than zone 2. And then a very small percentage is really hard, all out, high intensity. And believe me, so if I can just talk about my past training a little bit, when I was more into CrossFit, especially like around 2021, I was doing harder CrossFit, high intensity, all those things. So my anaerobic threshold was really high. I could burn through a really hard 14-minute workout. You could give me anything you want, and I could beat a lot of people because that's what I was doing. I was training hard. My My heart rate was high a lot. I wasn't doing as much zone 2 as I probably should have been doing. Okay. So I look back at those days. I got really, really good at, I'll use track as an example. I got really good at running a 400 really fast and not getting that tired. But could I run 5 miles really well? Probably not, because I wasn't training my aerobic system quite hard enough in the right way, right? So, and that's kind of CrossFit sometimes, as it becomes too much high intensity,
kind of imbalanced in the other direction.
a little bit, right? So, and that's kind of, I mean, if you even study CrossFit, you know high intensity is part of their equation, okay? But, you know, the smarter athletes in CrossFit, and, you know, I've adapted how I do it over the years, but it's more zone 2 on Thursdays, for example, to recover. Sundays could also use, you know, that could be a recovery day as well. What I actually found, though, was, okay, I did all this stuff. I felt what I felt. I was actually in really good shape from an aerobic perspective, but I couldn't go run 5 miles like I wanted. So I was like, okay, let me change a few things, right? Let me change a few variables. The biggest thing that I changed was I went, I'd say, from 20 to 30 minutes per week of really hard, high intensity training to down to 5 to 10 minutes. And then I just increased my volume of zone 2 to more like 2 to 3 hours per week, which was a decent shift for me because I had been doing CrossFit, right? And you get used to that around 30 minutes per week of my heart rate's pretty high. I'm eating up my system a little bit here. It hurts. I got used to that, right? It's just what I did. It wasn't hurting me, but it definitely wasn't pushing my aerobic system in the right direction fast. Okay, it kind of was hurting me, I would say, actually. So my brain, I feel like I was actually more and more in the sympathetic mode because that's what it does, right? It puts you in the sympathetic mode more.
Is that almost like fight or flight mode, or like
fight or flight, sympathetic, parasympathetic, same thing. So yeah, it definitely puts you in more of that fight versus allowing that relaxation, right? So I still remember that, and I was training that way. Just I really enjoyed it, right? And I was really fit. I felt good, but I would say my energy to train other people was a little bit less than it is today. That's what you feel is you feel less brain power because you're eating up those carbs. You're eating up all that stuff that your brain wants. And I wasn't as efficient at using it because I wasn't doing as much zone 2 stuff. So I definitely shifted away from as much high intensity stuff. I got worse at CrossFit though, because I'll be fair with you. You can't do that. Like, to be a good CrossFitter, you can't really just go zone 2 and do no high intensity. You'll get your butt kicked in these Metcons.
Yeah.
Do I really care? No. Honestly, I wanted to feel like a little bit better on the 5 mile run, wanted to feel more efficient with my energy. And yeah, for me personally, I've actually, gotten probably better at just understanding the overall intensity and volume that I can handle per week. But that's not to say people shouldn't go through CrossFit and understand it and feel it and go through some of these systems, because I think it's good for you. But I think there is a way to do CrossFit better. And I program things, I train myself in things, I feel it for myself. I would say CrossFit, if it's done correctly, kind of the way it's written, actually, you're going to struggle a little bit more with having the energy for your job outside of doing CrossFit if you do CrossFit hard. And I've talked to enough people to know, like, a lot of times these people, they're going home and laying on their couches on Thursdays. I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to go to work. This is fun. Like, as much as I respect people that you can go sit on your couch for a day, I can't do that, right? So I had to kind of be smarter. I can't, I'm not going to do what a high-level CrossFitter's doing on a Thursday. I'm going to do something that I'm still getting really fit, but I feel a little bit better about. So, again, these are all things that it takes time to go through them and understand them. But simply put, yes, do high intensity. Just do a little bit less than, please do less than you are doing of zone 2. And you have to understand that, like, zone 2 at 11 hours per week, you have to do that because, you're doing a triathlon. Most people I would not suggest that to, though. So to be clear on advice, I'm just trying to be clear on advice. Like, I don't think most people should do that. I don't think that's necessarily the most efficient thing.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to do an Ironman, they have to, right? So that's maybe the difference to understand for people that are listening. To be a good CrossFitter, I was like, I have to do CrossFit. It sucks, but I have to do this. And I did it, and I felt it, and I understood it, and I don't regret a day of it. It was awesome. It's like maybe it wasn't the best thing for my body at the time,
but worth it.
But at the same time, it was worth it. So I think that's why I respect what you're doing so much, Goggins, is I know what you're putting your body through. I haven't felt the exact things you're feeling because I haven't done the specific training, but
Similar though.
it's similar, but I appreciate it because CrossFit's suffering. Okay.
Yeah.
Marathon training, it's suffering. Triathlon training, even though, yes, it is zone 2. I don't care. Like, it's hard, man. It's, you are suffering. You're putting yourself through something that's increasingly difficult, right? And I think the bigger point is if a 20-minute walk is really hard for you, you're probably, at the right place. Do 20 minutes. That's it. Don't do what we're doing on here, but go for a 20-minute walk. If that's difficult, great. That's what you need to start with. If you can run a mile and feel okay about it, but you're absolutely trash after the fact, maybe that's where you're at, right? Because Goggins, you're pretty well trained, right? So you're able to handle this. I think I could handle a decent Ironman training plan. I'd be an absolute mess, same as Goggins feels sometimes. But we could. No, I could. But the body, for us, we've been around it a little bit longer. So yeah, newbie. You got to be careful with newbies because some newbies think I'll just go do what that guy's doing. And I've experienced this, right? Like they ask me, "What are you doing?" Like, you can't do it. Like, don't try. It's not sensible, right? Like, let me start you with what you can do, and then we'll move forward, right?
Yeah. Well, I love it. I could go for hours or just listen for hours on this stuff. Unfortunately, we got to cut it off for today.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's so much here we can talk about just in terms of health and kind of what to track, look out for, things we've learned. So, yeah, unfortunately got to cut it off, but
I can't believe it ended that quick.
Yeah. I feel like we're literally just getting started, dude. I feel like, this topic, we can go for hours. I'm like over here.
Yeah.
I'm remembering like this book that I was reading that was all about, they call it the 4 horsemen of aging disease. And it's like, cardiovascular, cancer, neurodegenerative or metabolic issues and like how you balance those things. I think next time we're back in here, we can definitely go deeper.
I love that
on this stuff. But yeah, that's it for today. But we'll be back soon.
Amazing flow. And, we just flow, guys. This is beautiful. I
feel like we could do this particular conversation for like 10 hours because there's so much more we can dive into here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back soon.
Beautiful. All right. Too easy.
Too easy.